Welcome in, welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape, especially during kickoff week as it is now. But we have a special emphasis on our black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. But today, it's all about the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's right, it's a very special episode today. As promised, 2 weeks ago, I gave you my Missouri 2022 preview and prediction episode. Today, it's all about the Iowa Hawkeye 2022 season preview and prediction show. So it's great to be back with you. And stop, collaborate and listen. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you think you're seeing double, well, you definitely are. Please, we are in control of your television set. Please do not attempt to adjust the picture. Some good old Outer Limits there, but I was more of a Twilight Zone guy myself. That's right. This good-looking man next to me is my one and only brother, Anthony.
You two brothers?
You two brothers? No. Yes! I love some Night at the Roxbury. One of those unknown SNL movies there, right there with the ladies, man, that are absolutely classics. So, as I told you last week, I'm taking the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog on the road this week. So I'm coming to you live from the basement.
World tour.
Are worldwide. Worldwide, that's right. So it is the world tour. I'm here in town at the artery of Iowa Hawkeye football, everything Iowa athletics here just north of Iowa City. So it's awesome to be back here in America's heartland, hanging out with my brother. And I'm so pleased that he's joining me today because for you, the Black and Gold family, in previous episodes, I've mentioned several times that the reason why I'm so happy you're here with me is our father, he's deceased several years ago now. He was the one who introduced us to everything Iowa athletics. He was kind of that initial spark, but throughout my life, I mean, we're not exactly twins, even though we look very, very similar. Where there's about a 4-year age gap between us. But unfortunately, one of us was the Schwarzenegger, and obviously one of us is the DeVito. But through my life, though, it's really been you, Anthony, that's kind of kept that love for Iowa athletics kind of burning. You're the one who's kind of stoking that fire. I mean,
I've been in Iowa City for almost 30 years now. This is my home. So came to college here, and Iowa City is great. It's a great place to be, and glad you're here.
Well, it's great to be here, and I'm so happy to be doing this preview with you.
Me
like
too.
I said, it means a lot to me, because you're the one that even to this day we talk everything Iowa all the time, anytime, all the time. Football, basketball, field hockey,
softball.
Women's basketball, softball, you name it, we talk about it. But today, man, it's going to be a great episode. And before I say any more, as always, thank you for all that you do for the channel. I mean, everything is absolutely trending in the right direction. Maybe unlike the stock market right now, but right now, the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, stock is rising, views are up, likes are up, comments, subscriptions, but we definitely need a few more. And we're joined by a couple of furry friends here, by the way. You might hear them occasionally walking around. So thank you for all that you do. And please, I always encourage any involvement by you, the Black and Gold family, or any college football fan alike. You're all welcome here. This is a safe haven. So please comment, like, share, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. So what's on the agenda for today? We're definitely going to discuss, since we're only merely days away from kickoff here in Iowa City, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits come a-calling. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of dive into the current roster, look at some units, players, coaching staff potentially. What are going to be some areas or units of strength or weakness, concern, or hey, we can bank on this being a good thing? Then we're also going to give you maybe a few potential impact players or units, coaches, or maybe a breakout player here or two. And then at the very end of this episode, we're going to break down the schedule game by game, and we're going to give you on air, on camera, our official predictions for the season. But actually, 3 parts to that. Our official prediction, this is what we think they're going to finish. But then again, also we'll give you the potential ceiling for Iowa. If things go their way, this could be their record. But the opposite of that, the potential floor if things just don't quite come together. All right? So without any more questions, you ready to do this?
I am.
Let's do it. But, as a wise man once said, before you can move forward, you must first move backwards. That's right. So what I'm going to start off with today, I'm going to go ahead, we'll do maybe a quick little summary recap of what the 2021 season brought Iowa and its fans. So looking at this, overall their record was 10-4, but regular season record 10-2, overall 7-2 in the Big Ten. Now Iowa did lose their 2 postseason games. So 10-win season, even though I'm telling you, you guys know this by now, I am not a Homer Simpson. I say it and call it as I see it and how I believe it is. So 10 wins is nothing to throw shade at. No. It's nothing at all. I mean, we are, once again, a developmental program. We don't have 4- and 5-star recruits galore, all right? So before, we're definitely going to give you some good, some bad, and some ugly. We definitely are. So 10-4 overall, 10-2 in the regular season, 7-2 in the Big Ten. They were the Big Ten West champions last season, so that's only the second time since they went to East and West divisions, I believe, right? First appearance in the Big Ten title game since 2015. Definitely the Big Ten title game did not go as planned, and we'll get more to that in a little bit. Definitely not the best showing by the Hawkeyes in the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis. Last year, they had the 50th hardest schedule, according to Phil Steele, going into the season. So right about, not exactly a cakewalk schedule, but not one of the most difficult. So 50th most difficult. During the season last year, I mean, definitely were some euphoric highs and definitely a lot of rock bottom depressing lows.
Sure. Yep.
So, Anthony, let's start with that.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead, when you think of the high point last season, as a fan, what do you think? What, to you, was the high point of last year's Hawkeye football season?
Gotcha. So the good. All right. So
let's do the good first. Beautiful.
The high point for me, and it's the easy one to pick is the Penn State game, right? I think that's what most people looking back on. You have two top 5 teams playing for the first time since 1985. Iowa pulls victory from the jaws of defeat, comes back after injury to Sean Clifford. I think most people, Penn State quarterback, I think most people will go with that. However, for me, I think the win over Minnesota at home, actually the most important win of the year. People may not realize that Minnesota would have been Big West winners, the Big Ten West Division winners, if they would have won in Iowa City last November. Interesting game. Once again, if I had to describe Iowa's season last year in total for my review, I would sort of put it at grand larceny, right? We're not here to throw shade, but I'm going to throw a little bit of shade, even though they had 10 wins, because I believe they won the Big Ten West as the 4th best team. To be quite frank with you, but after 2 really terrible non-competitive losses to Purdue and to Wisconsin, they did fight back. They won 4 games in a row, including that Minnesota game. Yeah. So I could pick in that Minnesota game, down 13-10. I could pick Charlie Jones in his 72-yard touchdown pass on the first play of the second possession of the half. I could pick Charlie Jones in his 34-yard completion in the first half to set up their first touchdown. I could pick that too. But surprisingly, I'm going to go with Iowa's high point as the mismanagement and the poor strategy employed by the bald beauty himself, PJ Fleck. He, I believe, gave that game away. And Iowa, a lot of times, they win games because they're solid, they have good decision-making, they're strong in the kicking game, they don't turn the ball over, and they induce turnovers,
Yes.
right? A lot of teams, unlike usually Northwestern plays very similar. They're sort of Iowa light, and they win a lot of games the same way. Minnesota, when they were down, I believe they're down 3 in the second half, and PJ Fleck, after going for it, after kicking field goals, short field goals on fourth and 10, or fourth down twice inside the 11 in the first half, kicked field goals, right? Put him in a little bit of a hole. He then punted from inside Iowa territory, which was a smart thing to do, but he attempted a 53-yard field goal in the second half. So, not surprisingly, is blocked by Logan Lee. Iowa got the ball, went up. They were, I think it was 17-16 at the time.
Yep.
Is what it was. So if they simply punt the ball from the 36-yard line and they pin Iowa deep, Minnesota likely wins that game, right? So I think the high point is the attempt of that field goal and the block of the field goal by Logan Lee, because 5 plays later, Iowa was in the end zone. And despite, at that point, 4th and 17, getting the ball at the 3-yard line late in the game and running 2 sneaks and a pitch backwards, not trying to win the game and go up 9, Iowa held on late, forced a sack, won by 5 when a Hail Mary or a pass could have been at the end. So, blocked field goal, Logan Lee, high point of the year.
Okay, beautiful. And you're right, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as throwing shade, but stats, we're both stats guys.
Yeah.
And stats usually 99.2% of the time do not lie. But last year's Iowa squad to get to 10 wins is really something that I think NASA engineers would have to kind of work on to figure out.
Amazing.
Especially that Minnesota game.
Yes.
I mean, you look at the stats of Team A versus Team B on a blind taste test, so to speak.
Yep.
You're going to say Team A wins 9 times out of 10 being Minnesota. It's just something that was a repeating theme last year.
Over and over again.
And we'll get to that in a little bit here. We're going to share some overall numbers with you.
Yep.
As far as to prove that. For my high point, I think you already brought it up. It had to be that matchup of number 4 versus number 3.
Yep.
I mean, that play action rollout, deep touchdown pass to Nico Reganey. I mean, I said on my earlier show after that week was that a top 5 play, top 5 moment in Kinnick history? You bet your ass it was. At that point, I mean, because at that point, they completed the comeback against Penn State. They ended up securing the victory via defense, which something that we saw a lot, and we'll get to that here. But at that point, it then propelled them up to number 2 the following Monday in the nation. So everything was really ahead of Iowa at that point, but definitely didn't go as planned down the stretch. So that was my highlight, just seeing that, but also getting several texts and calls from friends and family saying, oh, it's not Iowa's day, and then seeing them come back. It was kind of nice. It was something that made me happy to see that come back, to see that. But that was my high point. Now, low point, I'm going to go ahead and start if you're all right with that.
Go
Low
ahead.
points last season. Just when you look at one thing, it had to be the Big Ten title game for me. I mean, I made the trip up here. Anthony and I watched that together. And there's no doubt that Michigan was a better team. And they were.
Yep.
I mean, they deserved to get to the college football playoff as they did. So them defeating our Hawkeyes was not a big shock or surprise. They were a better team. They were, I think, they were favored by 13.5 points if memory serves. But to see Iowa get absolutely embarrassed, boat raced, taken out behind the woodshed, whatever you want to call it, by 42-3, it was just very, very depressing, especially when you're on the verge of playing for big prizes. They win that game, Iowa's going to the Rose Bowl, which that's one thing, and Anthony and I both have this in common, that it's almost better for me to see, it's more rewarding for me to see Iowa get to the Rose Bowl, maybe even more than getting to the college football playoff, even though it's a very short list of teams who ever made it. But to get there and get your ass waxed by Bama or somebody so much better than you, it's almost not worth it.
It doesn't matter. Rose Bowl victories forever.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. So that was the most depressing down moment for me. Just seeing basically that team, I don't want to say not show up, but completely got exposed for basically how the whole season should have went against a superior team that executed better. So that was just very, the air went out of my sails, out of the balloons that day. It just was very depressing to watch that happen. So how about you? Your low point.
Well, I already kind of talked about they were non-competitive in the losses after the Big Penn State win, and I'm not saying that's not a high point. It's a tremendous high point, but ultimately you play to win championships, right? So a Penn State win or a loss, if you beat the teams you're supposed to beat in your division, you go to the Big West title game, right? Or the Big Ten title game, you win the Big Ten West. So low light for me, certainly the Penn State game, Wisconsin games, falling behind Illinois 10-zip. I mean, it was a recurring theme, right? And needing 2 return touchdowns, one by Jack Campbell, one by Charlie Jones again to beat Illinois.
Charlie Jones!
Getting down, 21-6 against Nebraska and pulling a miracle with everything that happened, a blocked punt.
Well, it may not be a miracle. It might just be Nebraska
Yeah, it might
football.
just be Nebraska.
No offense, Nebraska
You're
fans.
right,
It could just be
yeah.
Nebraska football.
But if you need a block punt TD, you need a safety and interception all in the last 60 minutes of a game. I mean, that's tough to do.
Yes.
So, but you hit it on the nose. Being non-competitive, completely non-competitive, and being depanced on national TV by Michigan, who was certainly the better team. I think we both expected that game to sort of turn out similar to how it was. But I thought Iowa's defense would be better, and I didn't really expect the offense to do much more. But when the high point of your game is, or the only memorable performance of the game is by Iowa men's basketball player Patrick McCaffrey in a local commercial for Falbo Brothers Pizza.
I want Falbo Brothers. Yes.
Yeah.
YouTube
Falbo
it right
Brothers.
Here when you're done. Just type in Falbo Brothers right there. That shit is art, like someone said.
That local TV has to get 2 minutes of commercials per game. Yes. And one of the commercials that aired during the game was for Falbo Brothers Pizza. Patrick McCaffrey. Look it up. It'll make your day. But that was the best performance of the day. 100%. It's the only memorable performance of the day by Iowa football.
And God love NIL right there is a good example of
Absolutely. So that it has to be the low point of the year, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, but I think maybe another big moment of that game was the pregame with Big E from WWE out there.
Absolutely.
That's excellent.
Yeah, we get another good performance from an Iowa person.
But it was just so deflating and just embarrassing and everything. It's almost like Kevin Bacon's character from Animal House, just bending over in Niedermeyer. Thank you, sir. Have another. That's what it was like. Michigan just doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, whatever they wanted against Iowa.
It proves everyone right. All the gossip you hear, all the outside chatter. I mean, we know that Iowa's defense. Let's not mince any words here. Iowa's defense since 2017 has been national title worthy, right? With an offense that would be as good as most other ones out there. They would be competitive to maybe be in the playoff, right? That's how good the defense has been, 100%.
If they have like a top 70 offense, not even top 50. I mean, I think the stat that I saw a few weeks ago that this Iowa has now gone 6 straight seasons, the longest in the nation, allowing less than 20 points a game. 6 straight years.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying they'd win the national title. No. I'm not saying they could beat Alabama or Georgia, but they would be in the mix with a serviceable offense, unfortunately. And over the last, since 2017, since Brian Ferentz took over as offensive coordinator, they have not finished in the top 2/3. They've been in the bottom third of total offense every year, including the bottom 7% last year, finishing 121st, not including the bowl game, 123rd. Sorry, 121st including the bowl game. 123rd without. That gets you UMass, UConn, New Mexico territory. That is terrible.
And anywhere, you finish near those teams along with Kansas being nearby. And Duke. Not good. Not good company. Maybe Duke basketball or Kansas basketball. One thing, but not football. Okay, when it comes down to stats.
No.
So, and that's going to lead us to, I think, that's a good lead into this season, what we see as potential strengths, weaknesses, areas of concern. So let's just get right into it. Let's just go right into areas of concern or weakness.
All right.
And these are what we think can be. Hopefully they're not going to be. But definitely we know right now these are going to be the challenges. Okay, so let me tell you just right now. Last year it was the 50th hardest schedule. This year, according to Phil Steele, 28th hardest schedule in the nation because they do add crossovers with Michigan and Ohio State.
Yes, they do.
Both are legitimate playoff contenders and Big Ten title winner contenders. So let's just start off with the offense. Now, everybody I know wants to talk about QB play, and definitely we're going to get there. But I've got to start off with this, then I'll let Anthony take over. I got to start with the O-line, okay? Because the O-line last year was not very Iowa-like. They allowed 32 sacks last season, 68th in the nation. So not very Iowa-like at all. Throughout the entire season, we saw no matter who was in the backfield, Spencer Petras, Alex Padilla, half the time they're running for their life. It just served Alex Padilla better because he is a little bit more fleet of foot. And throughout the entire season, Tyler Goodson, I don't even know how he eclipsed 1,000 yards last season. There were not legitimate running lanes or holes the entire season. So the offensive line is really what started the downward spiral of the offense last season. And I'm sure Anthony's going to talk about the QB next. And after that, I'm going to share with you some ranks from last season as an offense as a whole. But for me, the offensive line has got to be better. They bring a lot of starters back. So I do definitely think they'll be better. But then again, I want to say they can't be much worse, but they definitely could. But their offensive line has got to be better at winning the point of attack, holding the point of attack, and giving whatever quarterbacks in the backfield some time to go through progressions and throw. So I think it's got to start with the O-line discussion from last season. This year, that's going to be my biggest focus, what I'm looking at watching on Saturday's game at Kinnick.
And honestly, to be honest with you, it's both sides of the line. But the offensive line certainly was the unit last year that unfortunately was suspect. They returned 8 of 9 starters. So they have a lot of contributors, 8 of 9 contributors from last year, basically. However, the one person that they lose is Tyler Lindenbaum, right? So, and he's on the drafted by the Ravens.
A generational offensive lineman.
Exactly. So you have to replace your center, right? Unfortunately, I'm hopeful they make progress. I really do. And, it's hard on the defensive line. The defensive line was okay, right? So they lost Zach von Valkenburg. Unfortunately, he's in the Raiders now. They do have.
Fortunately, he was just cut 2 days ago.
Unfortunately,
he didn't make the final cuts, but he was in it till the final cuts.
But talk about Logan Lee. He's all preseason Big Ten honors. He's coming back there. We have Connor Colby, true freshman. He had the most starts, I believe, as a true freshman in Iowa history. But they were 119th in allowing tackles for losses. That's the big problem, right?
You can't.
So I know you're talking about sacks, but when you're once again you're down around 120 in anything, and you're talking about tackles for losses, you're behind the chains. All right. So I just think that we have a lot of trouble. I hope the offensive line is better. It hurts the quarterback play. People are going to be all over Spencer Petras and Alex Padilla, and you know what? The guys do the best they can, right? Unfortunately, you can't overplay your talent. The one thing I've told Blair several times, and anybody, is you can't teach accuracy. And that's the thing that I see that's a problem with the quarterbacks, but it is the coaching staff's responsibility to put players in position to succeed, right? So, the offensive line, I hope they're better. I don't expect much progress. Losing Tyler Goodson is a big loss. We're really, really green at running back this year, right? And I don't mean Sean Green. I'm talking green, as in there's... we have a sophomore and a true freshman.
Sean Green, you left early. You probably have a year or two of eligibility. Come on
back. We could try. But I do think we need to mention, the defensive backfield last year we talked about some of the good earlier. The defensive backfield last year, and for the last 5 years, Iowa leads the entire nation in interceptions. I believe it's 75, I think, right over the last 5 years.
It's ridiculous.
Now, that includes 25 last year, which was 10 or 12 ahead of the next closest team. So you can't ever expect that to... One thing that always regresses to the mean
is
turnovers. You can never predict them.
Yes. I was just going to say that.
The Minnesota game we talked about earlier, you're outgained 410 to 280.
Time of possession
was 2-1, 40 to 20, and you lost a turnover battle at that time. So
and penalties too, I believe.
Exactly.
Everything.
So that's just it's a hard game to believe that Iowa won last year. I don't expect, unfortunately, even though they return, a number of players on the defensive side. I mean, we lost Dane Belt, we lost Matt Hankins, we get Riley Moss back, which is great. The cash position for Iowa is unique. The last 3 players to play that have all played in the NFL, right? They've all been drafted. So I'm certainly hopeful that I think let me see, not Jamari Harris, but Cooper DeJean is someone who is going to, I think, start at the cash position possibly. He's going to rotate in with the more talented.
Excuse me.
Sorry, not Dayton.
Excuse me, guys.
Sorry, I'm blanking on Germani. Is it Germani Jones? I believe. Who's the third? The linebackers. No, the linebackers. Typically, it's sort of a linebacker defensive safety position. So I think that Cooper DeJean is someone to actually watch.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I do think that they're going to have some troubles replacing the people that they did lose. I don't expect them to have that many interceptions again.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Anthony. I mean, you're not going to walk away with 25 picks this season. If you do, hey, we'll absolutely take it.
Absolutely not.
But you're definitely going to come back to the mean. You definitely are going to regress. There's no doubt about it. And and I think the line play, I think the D-line, they do bring a lot back from last year. I think they actually could be a little bit better. And I think we'll talk more defense here in a little bit.
Yep.
But for me, the offense, it's the O-line. How about, do you want to start us off with the quarterback play?
Well, we talked about that already. Yeah, I just think that I don't know how it's going to improve very much because you can't teach accuracy, right? And Justin Jacobs is the name I was forgetting there. It's going to be him and Cooper DeJean who are going to be at the cast position. And honestly, that is the most important position that Iowa plays. They switched to that back in 2019, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And since then, that's when their takeaways have really sort of blossomed. So, we talked a little bit about the defense. We kind of mentioned it, but the strongest point is their linebacker play. They have all three linebackers that are named to the preseason Butkus list, right? Yep. And they only programmed to have that in the entire nation.
How many linebackers at a time are on the field usually?
Typically three.
Typically three, yes, and all three are okay. Is that good?
Yeah,
that's good. That's pretty damn
really
good.
Yep.
And the best, it's hard to know which one's the best, but Jack Campbell, who led the entire nation last year in total tackles, which I get it, that could be a little bit jaded because the Iowa defense was on the field a lot, but still, the guy is the preseason the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, first team All-American, as is Riley Moss that Anthony mentioned too. So a lot of good things coming back on defense. I actually think this defense overall could maybe be a better version of last year. I think actually they could be better top to bottom. I think they can be. I think they have the ability, but they're not going to be ball hawks like last season.
I don't see how that happens.
But I do got to talk a little bit more about quarterback play. I just do, because I do think it's a little bit unfair.
Yep.
Obviously, Spencer Petras is inaccurate, and I'm not someone who is defending our quarterbacks, and I don't know any of these cats individually, neither does Anthony. And I knew they do the best job they can, way better than broken down old pugs like us, like Mickey said that we would do. I mean, and I get it, and they seem like gamers, okay? But I think a little bit about Spencer Petras is the accuracy that Anthony brought up. You can't teach that. Footwork, though, sometimes he has happy feet, but a lot of that, I think, comes back to the O-line. And I do ask myself, and you kind of brought it up, how much progression are we going to see? Maybe Spencer Petras has hit the ceiling. Maybe he has. I hope not. But I think that when you're running for your life like he was last year, you have that mental scarring. And the first moment you identify that you're in trouble, that you got to run around like a chicken with your head cut off, you're going to panic and you're going to cover up. But Spencer has got to try to get that out of his system. Alex Padilla, I don't think, has that quite yet, because the teams he faced last season were not world beaters on defense like Spencer did. But I mean, the numbers for the offense as a whole, and these aren't typos. This is how bad it was last season, and we're hoping it's better. Last year in scoring, they were 99th in the nation, 10th in the Big Ten, 23 points per game as an offense. Not good. Rushing, 101st in the nation, 11th in the Big Ten with only 124 yards per game. Passing, 109th in the nation, 8th in the Big Ten, a measly 180 yards passing per game. So total, they were the 121st in the nation, like Anthony mentioned a little bit ago. And those numbers do not lie, but just to get to 10 wins in a division title, it still blows my mind how this happened with those offensive numbers.
And to add to those stats, if you're talking about completion percentage, Spencer Petras is right basically at 100th in the nation. He's 57%. And it's just not good enough. Alex Padilla was actually under 50% in the games he played. So When you're 100th in the nation in anything,
Yeah.
that it doesn't work.
No.
And when I was offensive stats, their total offense, when the high water mark since Brian Ferentz took over in 2017, when the high water mark is 87th, that's not getting it done.
No,
You're wasting this golden age of defensive play
Yep.
that we've seen, and it's a recurring theme. Unfortunately, when nepotism is your business, and business is good at Iowa. We've had Kirk Ferentz here now for this 24th year. We've had first of all Norm Parker and then Phil Parker here since 2011. All 24 years of Parker defense, which is fine. He's doing a great job. But then you have, since 2011, Brian Ferentz has been here, coaching tight ends and offensive line, and now he's the quarterback coach along with the offensive coordinator. It's just you have themes and you're stuck in a pattern, and it's hard to break out, especially on offense. And I think we as Iowa fans have felt this way for a long time, and it was a bottoming out last year offensively. It cannot get worse. You have to go up. The offensive line has to be better, right? Quarterback play has to be better. And because the defense, even though you think it might be a better unit, when you can turn your defense into points, as we said, that's going to regress to the mean. You can't rely on that. And unless Lucas Van Ness is an absolute beast, right, on the defensive line, which he could be. He's a breakout player. That kind of leads us into breakout players. He had a fantastic year last year as a redshirt freshman. And some big plays. I think he's someone who they can depend on the offensive line. I've already talked about Cooper DeJean a few times. He's going to be all over the field. You guys are going to love that player, right? But I don't know how Iowa's defense can be as good total to put the offense in that good a position, and also help with special teams, right? Because your special teams, at some point you have to have some sort of decline. It's hard to imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for me, just the last word on offense, and I got to say that this is to really put it. If you're not a stats person, if you're somebody who says, I watch the games and I see what I see, this is how bad they were. And I think if Alex Padilla was anything better than Spencer Petras, he would have been replaced. He would have been the starter, but I don't think anyone can say we saw enough from him. And obviously the coaches did not either. He's not ready. But let me just put this to you in very plain numbers. And you're probably not going to believe this.
Okay.
But this is true. So the last 6 games of the regular season last year. The meat of their division schedule. Purdue, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Illinois, Nebraska. So you've got maybe one really good defense. Wisconsin, really solid. Minnesota, okay, but Wisconsin, easily the best defense there. And Purdue was a little bit improved last season. But in those 6 games, 2 total touchdown passes. 2 touchdown passes in 6 games, but worse, both of those were in the Minnesota game that you brought up. So that means 0.0 touchdown passes in 5 games.
I don't believe it.
5 games. And you factor in the 2 postseason games when you're playing for the biggest prizes. The Big Ten title game and the Citrus Bowl against Kentucky. 1 touchdown total in 2 games. 3 touchdown passes in 8 games.
1 gosh darn hit.
That's all we got. That's it.
1 touchdown.
1 damn touchdown.
Okay.
So that right there puts it into realistic terms how much of a struggle and anemic the offense was. I rest my case, Your Honor.
Wow.
Did you think it was that bad hearing it like that?
That's pretty bad. And you know what? If you're not throwing touchdown passes, it's also hard when you're losing your top 2 running backs, which you talked about. The running backs are a complete mystery to us, right? You lose Tyler Goodson, you lose Ivory Kelly Martin. I mean, those are good contributors, right? And even though they finished 100th, and they still finished 100th in rushing, so I don't know. I'm hoping it's better. It can only be better, but this, I hope it wasn't the year before it just gets worse, which would be really hard to watch. Do you have any other areas of potential concern that you have? The specialists a little bit. I think Tory Taylor will. I think he's going to come back and win Big Ten Punter of the Year. He won it 2 years ago.
The punter from down under.
That's right. The punter
he
from
might
down
be
under.
my favorite Hawkeye, actually. He's there. He might be the MVP of the team. He might have been last year.
It's certainly possible, right? We talk about how great the defense was, but without Tory Taylor, once again, you're pinning people back. You can allow the defense to do their thing, create turnovers, create scoring opportunities, right? Charlie Jones, good for him. The Rogers Dwight Returner of the Year.
I know.
But he's returning kicks for Purdue now.
He's
So
probably going to have an awesome season as a receiver there.
Probably. He had some really, really big plays, explosive plays for Iowa. And for a team that doesn't have many explosive plays, Blair talked about the Nico Ragaini catch being one of the top plays in all time in Kinnick history, right? Well, I wish it's true, right? A broken play that brought him back in a game where the opposing quarterback was injured, but it still goes down as an all-time play because we don't have explosive playmakers like that.
Yep.
It's unfortunate.
Yep.
Except we do have...
Oh, my God.
La Porta.
La Porta. La Porta.
Yes. So, Sam Laporta.
Yes.
Now we're talking.
Yep.
I don't have
player.
concern, but we have to bring up
Absolutely.
Sam Laporta because once again, for the third straight year on the Mackey Award list.
Yep.
Now, it's going to be a tall order to knock off Michael Meyer or
Brock Bowers.
You know, you got the alliteration going in both those guys. You know, they're pretty much beasts. But Sam Laporta, if you take him and put him in a different program or you switch them around, Sam Laporta, maybe probably the second tight end off the board, right?
Easily.
Top 3 wide receiver the next great tight end from Tight End University,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
I think we have to mention him, not as necessarily as a breakout player, but someone who, with opportunities, could just demolish, could have a T.J. Hawkinson sort of growth,
Absolutely.
of spurt if something
Absolutely.
improves on the offensive line or offensive play in general. So those are my sort of picks to click, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
I like Cooper DeJean to make a big difference. Obviously, we didn't bring up Seth Benson. Big game this weekend. He committed to South Dakota State initially, and then got offered at Iowa. So he's playing the team that he committed to before. Led the nation in tackles, or second in tackles, I think the last 2 years or the year before, until Jack Campbell sort of took over last year. But linebacker play is going to be great. Tight end play is going to be great.
Yep.
I'm excited to hopefully see some offensive progress.
Yes, me
All
too.
right?
Me too. And Sam Laporta was one of my breakout players because he led the team in receptions last year. He might have even in 2020 in the in the COVID shortened season. I love this. He's moving and grooving. I love that.
Laporta.
So he might have led the team in the 2020. I'd have to check. I know last year he was a leading receiver.
Receptions and yards for sure.
And
last
the one
year.
touchdown that passed that he was at the receiving end in the postseason games on a 40-yard tight end screen that he just made it happen. He just made plays against Kentucky. And if you're an Iowa fan, you know this. And most of you, if you're a college football fan, I know that there's certain units that are important to every program. Okay.
Yeah.
But at Iowa, we rely so much more on tight ends. And I would say tight ends and punters so much more than anybody else does. If we don't have a legitimate tight end, it's going to be tough trekking on offense.
Yes.
So, and I think both of those cats are good. Laporta's,
for sure.
He'll be first or second round draft pick. He'll be early. Luke Lachey, freshman last year, had good good receptions, good reps as well. But he's one of my breakout players, even though he's already known, but he's got to break out more.
Yeah.
And Torrey Taylor, the punter from down under, he's my other breakout player. He has last year, I think, averaged just at 46 yards punt. And that's the other thing. Punting is so much more important to us as Iowa fans than as an Iowa program, because that, to me, and I've said this before, and I think you've agreed with me, punting to Iowa is an extension of their defense. That is the defense's first play.
Yeah.
Where are we going to start defense from? And it's so much more important to us than most any other program out there.
We have to
across
win the
nation.
special teams battle.
Yes,
Iowa has to win the special teams battle to win games. That's what that's how they've made their bacon, right? They made the sausage for a number of years. So place kicking, we'll have that's sort of a mystery for us too. But I think we're good to go. Certainly in punting and Sam Laporta, 8 or 9 touchdowns this year. Had 3 last year with a little bit of improvement. That guy can get certainly double that. At minimum 6 touchdowns for Sam Laporta this year.
Yep. Yeah, and replacing Caleb Shudik, the place kicker, 24 of 28 last season. We'll see what it plays out.
Absolutely.
So now let's get to the schedule
Let's do it.
breakdown.
Let's
I love
get to
this.
it. Yes.
So what I've asked Anthony to do, and obviously myself, is we're going to go through what we believe is the toughest, most important 4-game stretch for the Hawkeyes this season, for which ultimately could make or break the season. Have a good season, a normal season, mediocre, or just flat out bad.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead? What's your toughest 4-game stretch for the season?
I will tell you that since this was posed to me, since we had to look over the schedule, my most difficult 4-game stretch actually turned. It changed a little bit based on the results of last weekend because, as I mentioned earlier, I care about winning your division, right? To me, that's what you're trying to do, okay? You lose a crossover game to Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, whoever it is.
You give yourself a chance at the Rose Bowl.
Yes, if you beat the teams in your division, if you happen to beat them all, you will likely be playing in Indianapolis at the end of the year, right? So originally I had the last 4 games, right? I had the Wisconsin through the Nebraska games, sort of as the toughest 4 games that they had. But after being really, really impressed by Northwestern, as I said earlier, Northwestern is Iowa light. And many times they actually have outperformed us because they've played, if people don't forget, in 2 of the most recent Big Ten championship games, back in 2018 and 2020, I believe.
Even years.
There you go.
Well, 18 and 20.
I believe.
The even year magic for
you
Northwestern.
go. So,
maybe it might continue this season. Who knows?
Evan Hull looks, that guy, shifty. He's a playmaker. They had a breakdown, I know, in the secondary that allowed their long touchdown in the game against Nebraska there. But Pat Fitzgerald does everything that Kirk Ferentz does. He is a fantastic coach. He gets the most out of his team. I fully expect now the most difficult part of that schedule to go up 1 game from Iowa, and then what's the game before Nebraska there? I believe it is the Minnesota game, if I'm correctly. I think it's now Northwestern through Minnesota is the toughest 4 that I have because it goes Northwestern, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota. I believe is the schedule that I have. So I'm going to say home against Northwestern, right? You have your top 4 division contenders is who you're playing.
Yep, absolutely.
Nebraska,
all in a row.
Nebraska is going to be Nebraska. Everyone talked about how good they would be. I thought originally that could be, end the other your other 4 division factors. I don't think Nebraska's going to be a factor again.
No.
So your other 4 division factors are Northwestern, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota. Those are maybe not the toughest, but it's the most important,
That's
right?
the most important.
And I think that's going to make or break their schedule.
Absolutely. And actually, that's exactly what I got down right here.
Hey now!
And those 4 games are all in a row. There's no off week. At home against Northwestern for homecoming, a game that we'll be going to, which is excellent. On the road at Purdue, at home against Wisconsin, against Bucky, and then at Minnesota for Floyd. So, absolutely. Those are the 4 most important games starting on 10/29, October 29th, and ending on November 19th. That's going to be the 4 games that make or break their season, where they end up. And I think if you split that, go 2-2, okay. But if you go 3-1, chances are you're probably going to win the division.
You're in the mix.
Go 3-1.
You're definitely in the mix, right? You're playing the other 4 contenders for the title. So a 3-4 stretch would be outstanding.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I expect that, but that'd be outstanding.
Yeah, and for Nebraska, I think they'll be better. I mean, I did one of my bold predictions from my episode a few episodes ago. I did say that I thought Nebraska would win enough games to retain Scott Frost, but even though it's still technically summer, it's getting pretty frosty there in Lincoln. And one of my other bold predictions was I said Northwestern would go winless in conference play. Well, there goes that one. That one's already blown up. But
unless Nebraska isn't looked at as a Big Ten team anymore, because
well,
then this is not a really conference game.
It's just Scott Frost. I mean, until you can bring in brand new coordinators. You can go through the transfer portal, graduation for players. He's done everything except eliminate himself, and I think leaving him in control at Nebraska is like leaving Fredo in charge of the Corleone family. It's just not going to work.
No,
it's just not. No. It's just mentally you lack that mentality. That's it.
As much as you want to yell in the camera, I'm smart.
Yes.
No, Fredo, you're not, and that's just the way it is. So there you go.
You're my younger brother, and you take care of me.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
No.
All right.
Fredo
so
Frost.
Great. We absolutely are spot on for the toughest 4-game stretch.
All right. Good.
Now, another thing, before we break it down, the most important game. And for me, I'll start with this one.
Okay.
It has to be 11-12 at home against Wisconsin, the rival from the north. Only because Wisconsin is Wisconsin. They have absolutely owned us recently. They've won 8 out of 10. And the thing is, usually to win the Big Ten West, it goes through Madison.
Yeah.
And even though I think this Wisconsin team might be a little bit down this season, but they are one of the 4 teams that I believe can win this division.
Yeah.
That even if it ends up, let's say Iowa comes up a game or 2 short, you still have to beat those guys sometimes to prove to yourself you can. We can beat these guys. You have them at home. They have kind of underperformed the last 2 seasons. So that's a huge game just for the momentum of the program, but also their psyche and just that confidence that we can beat those guys. We can occasionally host the Heartland Trophy for 1 year when, yes, 8 out of 10, and they've beaten us 5 out of the last 6.
Yeah,
as
well,
Wisconsin.
we're only 1 year removed. I mean,
Yes.
in 2020, Iowa did beat Wisconsin at home, but I understand why you have that as the most important game. I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
right? But I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
Because that's how it is. And
No disrespect, T.
exactly, no disrespect.
No disrespect, Mr. Soprano. Yeah, no disrespect, T.
So, and because you always leave your audience wanting more, even though I just said the most important 4-game stretch was Northwestern through Minnesota, I'm going to say the most important game of the year is Nebraska.
Okay.
And we're going to get there. I'm not going to give my reasons just yet. We're going to get to the reason why I believe that's the most important game for Iowa this year.
All right, so now let's break it down game by game, official prediction time.
Here we go.
And I'm just going to tell you this, and you, the Black and Gold family, please comment, like, share, subscribe. You're going to see a little bit of a theme with my picks here.
Okay.
All right, so let's start off with South Dakota State. Tony, how you see this game coming out? What you got?
Oh, my gosh. Well, in a perfect world, this would be time for the Iowa offense to get right. Okay, but South Dakota State's not a pushover.
No,
right?
they're not.
And this is a competitive. This is a good program. I mean, as you said, they're number 3 ranked going into the FCS season,
Yep.
right? So a competitive game, and actually they gave us a competitive. I think did they beat us? They gave us a really competitive game a number of years back, I believe. So.
Last time we were defeated was by NC State, the Bison.
Okay, there you go.
Your birthday
Very close,
weekend,
yes.
unfortunately. They
Yes.
come here and ruin my brother's birthday
They did,
weekend.
unfortunately. Yes, they did ruin them. But
Yes.
and North Dakota State, obviously, that's a championship level
Yes.
program at the FCS level. But don't be surprised certainly if this game is close. I am going to say Iowa wins this game. But, and I'm confident of it, but I'm not overly confident because I don't know what to expect out of the offense, right? The defense is going to be there, but it's going to depend on turnovers, it's going to depend on field position, and don't be surprised if it's closer. Iowa's trailing. Very similar to some of the early games last year when I was kind of putting there, just kind of, falling behind early, 10-zip, whatever, getting off to poor starts and then kind of riding the ship midway through the game or in the second half.
Okay. I'm with you. I've got the Hawks winning, but I do think it's going to be really close at halftime.
Okay.
The home crowd might have a few boo birds, a little bit upset, but I think that's going to be kind of the plan because we've got some injuries. We had some attrition at the wide receiver positioning unit. Iowa has got to run the ball. They have got to do that to win this game. And if they're held under 150 yards rushing, don't be surprised. This is a game in the fourth quarter. I'm telling you, folks. But I do like Iowa to pull away in the second half to pull out the victory.
Okay.
So we're all good there. Let's you start with the Cy-Hawk game, the in-state rivalry. Let's go and start off week 2. We host Iowa State. What you think about this game, Tony?
Well, once again, toss-up game. Iowa, on paper, without looking too much into it, they're the better team, right? They're at home, but Iowa State underachieved last year. We were both really high on Iowa State.
I had Iowa State in the playoff field.
Well, and Brock Purdy is gone, Breece Hall is gone.
Charlie Kohler.
Yeah,
all
I
those
mean,
guys.
they lose a ton, but Matt Campbell knows what he's doing. He'll have them prepared. I expect this game to be close. I expect this one to come down to turnovers, right? I mean, last year, people forget, Iowa got off to a really terrible start. They picked, I think Matt Hankins caught a touchdown at midfield, I think, put him in good position, and Iowa had an instant turnover TD, I believe.
Yeah, the fumble by Breece Hall.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
Jack
And that was late in the
Campbell.
game, too. So they had 2 turnovers that really set Iowa up to win that game. So once again, I actually am leaning toward Iowa State in this game. I hate to say it, but I am leaning toward Iowa State coming in, hanging with them, and somehow getting this win. I don't know why, but I just have a bad feeling that Iowa State comes in and wins this game this year. I'm going to go with Iowa State.
Okay. I have 4 toss-up games on Iowa's schedule. This is one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no doubt Iowa is way more talented. They have a better roster.
Yeah.
They do. But we've seen this as Iowa fans before.
Yeah.
We've seen this movie play out in this script. Iowa has defeated their in-state rival 6 straight.
Okay.
6 straight victories. Coach Matt Campbell, who I do think is a really good coach. I think it just didn't quite go their way last season. He's 0-5, straight up against Kirk Ferentz and the Hawks.
Yep.
I'm with you. I think Iowa State comes into Kinnick, and they just do what we've seen happen before. They find a way to win. They get up, and they just find a way. And a lot of the times this has happened in these exact same circumstances. And all you Hawkeye fans, you know what we're talking about, to where a undermanned, outgunned, outmaneuvered team comes in here, and we just overlook them, and they knock us off. So I think I've got Iowa State winning too, unfortunately. I do. I think that 6-year end streak comes to an end. I'm with you.
All right.
I've got Iowa State winning too.
Wow.
But I think that will bode well. I think this loss will help Iowa later, though. I'll say that right now.
All right.
Next game at home against Nevada, we saw them play week 0. Not very impressive at all. I think it actually was more because of New Mexico State. And congratulations, Coach Jerry Kill, back on the sidelines. Love him. Seriously, this is great. He's a winner. But I'm just going to say, without much more, Iowa wins.
Iowa wins.
Okay.
That's a game they win.
All right. Big Ten opener on the road in Piscataway at Rutgers. What do you think about this game, Tony?
Well, so here's where we have a little fun, right? So the Iowa State game, we both agree Iowa State kind of unfortunately comes in and wins the game. But now you have a couple games upcoming that are... It is a trap, exactly. We have trap games.
He's back.
Admiral Akbar is back. So, unfortunately, you have a team called Michigan on the schedule after this, right? So, Rutgers, on the road at Rutgers, Iowa should win the game.
Yep.
I'm going to pick Iowa to win this game, but this is one of those games where they could certainly be looking forward to Michigan. What happened last year in the Big Ten title game, wanting, awaiting a better showing. Close game. Rutgers is improving. They did make a bowl last year, even at 5-7. They got into a bowl game. But I'm going to expect Iowa to go and win this particular game.
I got Iowa on the road win this game too. I think Rutgers is still Rutgers. They are making a little bit of strides, but I just like the continuity of Iowa, the culture, just everything's in place, the identity. I like Iowa. I think just comes back after that disappointing home loss to Iowa State. So we both got Iowa. Now, huge game, and you kind of have you started a good leeway here, a good in for me.
You go ahead first. Then.
For Michigan?
Yes.
Huge revenge opportunity moment. A lot of the times you have to wait seasons before you get an opportunity. Iowa gets Michigan at Kinnick.
Yep.
Hopefully going to be a night game, but you look at the schedule, it might end up being the big noon game, which is unfortunate. Because if it's a night game, I think that my choice, as far as who wins this game, is a lot easier. I just do. I think a huge revenge moment for Iowa to show that this was a fluke. We're coming back. But did you not know, and I'm sure you Hawk fans did, Coach Jim Harbaugh, the Khakis himself, is winless in Kinnick and in Iowa City as both a player and a coach. Because of that, see this theme.
Yeah.
I'm going with Iowa to pull a huge upset early in the season against Michigan at home.
All right. Well, I'd like to be with you on that branch, as we both were on the Iowa State game. But you're on the branch. You're out there on your own on this one, unfortunately. So
I'm out of my tree, huh?
Yeah. I'm not going to join you out there this time. So I think Michigan's going to win the game. I agree with you. I think Iowa's going to be pumped up for it. I think the revenge factor is there. We've already seen a huge turn, right? Was it 56-7 last year, I believe, the Nebraska-Northwestern game? That result was flipped just in week 0. So it's not like these things can't flip from one season to the other, okay? but it's just when you're dominated that much, and I don't see how, even with the losses they had, I don't see how the gap is closed.
Yeah.
Right? So it's hard for me to think that that I was going to play that much better and Michigan's going to play that much worse. Yep. So based on what I saw in the Big Ten title game, I'm going to go with Michigan in this game, unfortunately.
So our first disagreement, I think that's going to be Iowa's signature victory this season. I think that's it. And that's what we usually get as Iowa fans every year. We usually get one signature victory to hang our hats on. I like hats. So next game, we've got at Illinois. Why don't you go and start us off with this one?
Well, at Illinois, once again, our old friend has to stop in for a moment. It's another trap game. Come on, Emma Akbar is right. We have Ohio State on the schedule after that. Illinois, Brett Bielema, he's got his Hawkeye tattoo.
I know, right?
He's
got some mojo.
He's got a little mojo from Iowa. Iowa's the better team. But they had a nice win over the weekend, right? And they showed some improvement last year. They actually would have made a bowl game if they would have defeated Rutgers last year. So there is improvement there. They knocked off Penn State. They knocked off Minnesota last year, right? So, I think it's the toss-up game again. I think unfortunately the gamut between Iowa State and Rutgers and Illinois and Northwestern, I think Iowa's going to lose 2 of those games. I'm not sure exactly what 2 they're going to win. If I have to go and make a pick now, I'm going to go ahead and say Iowa loses this game this year. I'm going to pick Illinois. Unfortunately, even though the last time we were in Champaign, Spencer Peters had his best game as a Hawkeye, right? I think it's 35-14 or whatever it was. I think it was 2 years ago. Last time in Champaign.
Yes.
So that was his best game, but
that was also against Lovie Smith coach Illinois, though, too.
Yeah. So Northwestern is probably the more fearful, right, to come into Kinnick and win, but I think Iowa loses this game. When you sandwich in between Michigan and Ohio State, you're going to get beaten up physically, and that's the game they're going to be overlooking, and I think, unfortunately, that Illinois is going to be the loss that we don't expect. Why? It's a trap.
It's a trap.
That's the only reason.
All right. So you like the fighting in lineup.
I hate to say it.
2018, I was at the 63-0 game in Champaign.
Yeah.
I expect the same, very similar to that. Maybe not to that score. I like Coach Brett Bielema. I said last year on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, his first year. I love the hire, the best hire, I think, last year of a head coach. But, once again, my theme, Iowa has won 8 straight against Illinois, and this is unbelievable. Think back to the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
The good teams that Illinois had.
Oh, absolutely.
Iowa has won 13 of the last 14 against Illinois. That dominance continues. I like Iowa on the road because, you're right, the trap game and Admiral Akbar, great job. You're doing your research, but there's an off week after Illinois before Ohio State. So I think that helps them rest and focus mentally. So I like Iowa at Illinois.
It helps a little bit, but I'm telling you, that Illinois game, if you have a chance to go review some of the highlights, some of the plays, Illinois was really competitive in that game. They came into Iowa City ready to play, and like I said, I was down 10-0 really quick.
Charlie Jones,
100-yard kick return, changed that game around, and it was a 10-point spread at the end because of a Jack Campbell interception return at the end. That was a competitive game. Illinois was better. I think Illinois wins the game.
Okay.
I am probably crazy on that one.
Oh boy, next game. So we disagree on Illinois, but at Ohio State, wow, we don't have to say much about this. Oh, Ohio State
wins. Oh,
well,
no.
Okay, well,
Ohio State wins.
Well, then again, Kirk Herbstreit did pick Nebraska to win the Big Ten West.
Yes.
So what you just said is not that crazy.
It's still possible.
It's still possible, but that ain't gonna happen.
It's not.
Ohio State. We all know this script as Hawkeye fans. They've won. What do I got here? They've won 18 of the last 23 meetings. That's one thing that Hayden Fry really could not do and everything he accomplished.
Yeah.
I think he did beat them once in one of his Rose Bowl years in 91. But other than that, I think Ohio State continues just to have our number. And we've heard a lot about the last time these two teams met. We put up a 55 burger on them. Ohio State, I think, is looking to make people pay after last season.
Yeah.
I like Ohio State big in this game. I just do.
Yeah, that's a dangerous team. That's all we have to say about that. I don't think I'm surprising anyone. I'm not underselling. Ohio State is super, super legit, and probably my pick right now to win the whole thing this year. To be honest with you.
So like Forrest Gump, I got nothing else.
No.
I got nothing else to say about that.
I don't.
All right.
You're right.
So next game, we are homecoming against Northwestern. Tony, what you think?
I'm going to say Iowa wins the game, but I think this might be the most competitive game Iowa plays all year. I really do. I loved what I saw at Northwestern. And once again, last year, Iowa in bad weather, kind of rainy, outlasted Northwestern 17-13, I believe, on the road in Evanston. So tight game, just enough to win. They did enough. They sort of managed to come back and win those 4 games as we talked about earlier. I'm going to say Iowa wins the game, but it's, once again, toss-up. I think 3-point win either way. So Iowa.
All right. I got Iowa winning. I love Coach Pat Fitzgerald, probably my number 2 man crush in the Big Ten, behind the ball beauty, PJ Fleck.
Yep.
I just think Iowa's going to find a way to beat those guys this year. Plus, I'm going to the game. I haven't been to a game in 2 seasons.
There you go.
2. I don't want this to be ruined. Okay?
So
I got to pick Iowa.
Yep.
All right, so we both like Iowa against Northwestern. Next game, at Purdue. I'll start off with this one. Once again, my theme here. Coach Brom makes it 5 out of 6 against Iowa. Until Iowa can beat these guys, I'm picking Purdue. Last year, after the Penn State game, we were talking about getting tickets for the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
And what did we both simultaneously say to each other?
Yeah.
Let's just beat Purdue first.
Yeah.
And this is what happened.
Yep.
By the time they ended up going, it was way too damn expensive to get seats at that time.
Absolutely.
So, until Iowa beats them, I got to take Purdue because of their success, how they scheme against us. Sorry. Purdue wins.
I'm going to say this is the one that Iowa gets. I'm going to say that Purdue is the one that Iowa gets on the road this year. I know they have them winning at Rutgers early on, but I don't really have a reason for it other than the fact that I think George Karlaftis, I think him going to the NFL, I think that's a huge difference in that Purdue defense, which was improved, but still got run over in the Liberty Bowl, and whatever bowl. I think it was the Liberty Bowl they played in last year. They ended up outlasting. It was a heck of a game. They scored a ton of points, but they still give up a lot of points.
Against Tennessee?
Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah, but that was the victory, though. Remember, they pulled it out.
I know.
It was an
awesome
awesome
game. There was 5 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of that game. It's pretty impressive.
But I think Coach Josh Heupel, I don't know what some of those calls there were.
Yeah, I got
they went all in to win. I'll give him that.
Yep.
But, you're right.
I think Iowa does get this particular game. The defense, I think this might be one where David Bell's not around anymore, right? I don't think David Bell's not there. He's caused fits for Iowa, and as Rondale Moore did before, I mean, they're running just ragged throughout the secondary. I'm going to say Iowa wins this game.
Okay, and their returning wide receiver, Milton Wright, I believe his name is not playing. He was academically ineligible, and that's maybe why Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy Jr. both transferred in, but I just think how well they scheme. I think it's just anybody who can run this offense in it, Aiden O'Connell, I just think Purdue's going to win. Next game, I'll let you start off. We've got the home game against Wisconsin for the Heartland Trophy. How do you think?
Wisconsin wins.
You like Wisconsin?
I do. Wisconsin's, those 2 games, 23-7 and 27-7 against Purdue and Wisconsin last year, give me no hope. Wisconsin's tougher. They're stronger. Their defense is as either equal or better than Iowa's defense. And they have identity. They're going to run the ball. And Graham Mertz can't be any worse, right? I mean, he can't be any worse. So I think Wisconsin is going to come in and win the game.
Okay. Braylon Allen, stud running back, the next great Wisconsin running back, only a sophomore, which unless he leaves early, we're going to see him way too much as Iowa fans. We just are. Said Wisconsin's won 8 of the last 10, 5 of the last 6. I like Iowa. I think this is such a huge moment. That I just think Iowa finds a way to win this game. And I think I got them beating Michigan. If that happens, if they beat Wisconsin, this victory goes further for them, I think. It just does. And they're in the program's minds, I think, hey, we can beat these guys. So I do like Iowa to find a way to beat Wisconsin and maybe your classic rock fight, but Wisconsin does do rock fighting better than anybody. It's hard to beat them at their game, but I think Iowa finds a way this year. I just do.
We disagree again.
We disagree again on Wisconsin game. All right, next game at Minnesota, the road finale, the battle for the best trophy in all of college football, Floyd of Rosedale. How do you see this one playing out with Goldie?
Well, it's been a while. I mean, PJ Fleck is having a rough time against Kirk Ferentz.
Yes.
But I'm hopeful that he gets a chance to somehow, maybe he subscribes, maybe he understands that, against Iowa, you punt the ball. You punt the ball, you make them advance it, and you play a field position game. I think Minnesota is going to win the Big Ten West this year. I think Minnesota will beat Iowa, and they will finally reclaim Floyd, unfortunately. I think he's going to learn. He's going to learn his lesson at some point and realize that, you know what, sometimes you can just sometimes the winning move is not to play. All right, this is war game style.
Yes.
All right, sometimes that's the only winning move. The only winning move against Iowa sometimes is to let the offense do what they cannot do, which is try and move the ball and slowly win a field position game.
Or in a way, do what they can do.
Well,
Much of nothing sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But if you're inside the 20, you go for it on fourth down,
Yep,
right?
you
You just go for it because they're not going to advance. They're not going to have a 60-yard drive typically. They're not
Yeah.
going to score a touchdown. So I think Minnesota's going to win this game.
Okay. Whew, Minnesota has lost 7 straight to Iowa.
Yeah.
7
Yeah.
straight.
And many not competitive.
And they haven't been. I mean, some have been very close. The game that we went to 2019,
Sure.
I believe it was 19.
Yeah.
Great game in the cold, but it was an excellent game. Once again, the theme of my picks. I think finally, even though Kurt Ferentz is in the mind of PJ Fleck, he does.
Maybe
He's
that's why
outcoached him.
maybe that's why his hair's falling. I don't know. Maybe that's why he's a ball beauty.
Yep.
Who knows?
He's in his mind, but I think I'm with you. I think he finds a way this year. I think
Yeah.
Minnesota, and if you watch my bold predictions, I did pick Minnesota to win the Big Ten West as well. Obviously, Anthony likes that too, so I'm liking Minnesota over Iowa
There we go.
as well. All right, the finale at home, Senior Day against Nebraska. Oh boy, by then the big headline's going to be: is Scott Frost still even around? Is he coaching for his career, for his time in Lincoln? I'll say this: Iowa's won 7 straight, which is so hard to believe. I think the last time Nebraska even made a bowl game was 2016.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time in your DeLorean and tell your college self that first of all, Nebraska's going to be in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
you know, in a few decades or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're going to go, 5 years without being in a bowl game? You would have been like, no,
I would say
this is still...
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
The actor?
No,
Exactly.
that's what I would say. That's
so
crazy.
I can't believe what's happened at Nebraska.
No.
So I definitely think, once again, my theme, Iowa extends it to an 8-game win streak. I like Iowa at home on Senior Day over Nebraska to keep that streak intact. It's almost like there's dust right now on the Heroes Trophy.
Yeah.
It's just been sitting there, just like Floyd.
That's true.
It's been sitting there
I
forever.
got you. Why don't you take a little time and count up my losses there over there? You
Okay.
want to do that?
So the disagreements I've got...
Or just
got
my losses?
4 losses.
It's 4 losses? Are you sure?
I think
Check them
so.
again.
You've got Michigan.
Iowa State.
Oh, yeah, Iowa State. So you got 5.
Iowa State,
Yep.
Illinois, Michigan State. I'm sorry. We got to go down one more time. You got to recount them there because I believe there's 6. I believe there's 6
I'm
losses
sorry.
I've already talked about. The reason I said this is the most important game of the year is because I think Iowa is going to be
You've got Iowa State, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, and Wisconsin.
and Minnesota.
And Minnesota. Ooh, look at that.
I think Iowa's 5-6 going to this game.
Ooh.
The reason this is the most important game on the Iowa schedule is because I think they're playing for a bowl. That's the reason why. And Illinois may beat them, right? But Purdue, as Blair said earlier, Purdue is a heck of a team, right? Yeah. So, once again, when you're talking about Rutgers, Iowa State, those are toss-up games. They're on the road. Illinois, I think, is a toss-up game. I think Purdue is certainly a losable game, right? But regardless of how the schedule plays out, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, I think Iowa goes into this game with 6 losses. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they do win the game. I think they continue the streak. I think Scott Frost is probably gone by then. I don't think he's coming to Iowa City, by the way. That's my bold prediction. Now, not that it's that bold. I don't think he'll be here on the day after Thanksgiving to coach that game. But I do think this game is going to put Iowa in a bowl or keep them out. And I think Iowa wins. I think they make a bowl. And I'm going to say that they're going to party in Music City this year. I think that's what's going to happen. Iowa, unfortunately, will be 6-6 the year after playing in the Big Ten title game. And they will end up in the Music City Bowl in Nashville. That's my prediction. I hate to say it. Based on what I saw last year, unless there is a significant improvement offensively, as we said, you're going to have regression to the mean, right? Yep. Illinois, like I said, they win that game, they lose that game. Purdue, those are toss-up games, right? I just fully expect that they have 6 losses, unfortunately, at the end of the year.
Okay.
I hope that's not the case, but that's what I predict it to be. Now that leads us into what sort of best and worst, right?
Yep. And I've got them going 8-4. I've got them losing non-con to Iowa State.
Okay.
And then losing Ohio State, Purdue, and Minnesota. So what I could see Iowa beating Iowa State and still going 5-4.
Yeah.
So I could see that 5-4 in Big Ten play.
Yeah.
I think 8-4 is what I'm predicting.
Okay.
So let's go into ceilings. This is ultimately, this is what I look at. The toss-up games that I have, if things maybe go their way, I think the ultimate ceiling is 10-2, 7-2 in conference, losses being at Ohio State, at Purdue. How about you?
That's the absolute best. You think 10-2?
I think 10-2 is the absolute best that they can do.
I think 8 wins. I think 8 is realistically the best Iowa can do. I think they're losing to Michigan. I think they're losing to Ohio State. I think Wisconsin's tougher. And I don't know how you get through the gauntlet of Purdue, Minnesota, Northwestern, Nebraska, the road games, Illinois, Rutgers, Iowa State. I just don't see them beating any of the top 3 teams this year. So they're losing those 3 games, and I don't see how they get through everyone else without dropping one. So I say 8-4 is the absolute best this team can hope for without significant progression offensively.
How about your floor? What's the when the bottom drops out? What do you think? The absolute floor is.
I think it could be flipped. I hate to say it, but I think this could be a year where South Dakota State can beat Iowa.
They could.
Let's not mince words here.
They could.
I think your floor for Iowa this year, I think a 4-8 season is a possibility if everything is the same. If the turnovers are just halved, if they get 12 turnovers, which is still a good number, or 12 interceptions, if they get 12 interceptions instead of 25, right? But they don't make any progression offensively, and Torrey Taylor, maybe he, isn't the all-world punter that we expect from down under. Their kicking game doesn't pan out.
Yeah, they have no field goal kicker, injuries.
It's 100% possible Iowa's at 4 wins this year. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. It is. What I've got 6-6, 4-5 in the Big Ten. I think that's their floor, and that's just without even taking those variables into account. That's thinking if there's no injuries. If I just look at the roster right now, without injuries, without climate issues, without anything else, to where I think 6-6 is potentially right now their floor, losing to Iowa State, Michigan, at Ohio State, at Purdue, Wisconsin, at Minnesota.
Wow.
So all your really name brand competitors you lose to, basically.
But that's also saying that you're gonna go to teams. I mean, you're playing on the road in the Big Ten. They got 5 picks last year at Maryland, right?
Yeah.
And blew them out. Are you gonna get 5 picks on the road at Rutgers or Illinois? No. I don't see it happening. So realistically, once again, absolute ceiling for me. I think 8-4. I think floor 4-8. Realistically, I think we're looking at a 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 year. I think we're gonna end up in there, and then with 2 of those choices being right on the border of a losing or even record, you lose a bowl game even if you're at 6-6. I think it's very possible that Iowa has a losing season this year. 5-7 or 6-6 going to a bowl game. I think there's a 66% chance.
Yes.
Round up 67. I think there's a better than average chance that Iowa actually finishes with a losing record.
There we go. We'll see. We'll see
I hate
what happens.
to say it.
I know. But hey, you know what they say. You know what Johnny Cochran said. If the glove don't fit, you must quit. So we'll see how it plays out. But that's it. That's today's episode. I know we went a little bit long, but that's what we do here.
Yeah.
So please like, share, subscribe, rate, comment. It's been an absolute pleasure to be doing this with you, especially with my brother.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. I mean, and hopefully we can have you back again in the future.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We did be looking out for our week 1 picks episode that will be posted. Actually, it was posted late last night. Check it out if you're looking to see who we like to win some of the marquee and maybe off-radar games this week of week 1. Make sure to watch that one. Until then, enjoy the football. Celebrate. Football is back. Celebrate responsibly. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Let me know how it goes. Enjoy 5 straight days of college football.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah,
Ric
can't
Flair
wait.
style.
Did you say Chuck Long, by the way, or just Long? Was it
long?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
long.
I was
What?
hoping it was Chuck Long. But
Chuck Long?
Yeah, I guess not. Either way, apologize for not
Maybe
being
was.
particularly polished as
No,
the
no, no,
heretofore amazing host.
No.
That he gives you so much content. He's the hardest working man in show business. I'm telling you, 100%. He needs to have his flag on. He needs to be walking around. That's just the way it is.
And have my hot tub party?
Exactly, hot tub party. Too hot.
Too hot in the hot
Hot
tub.
tub.
Anyway.
So, either way, it was a pleasure being with you. Thanks for including
great.
me, and I'll do it again, and as long as you guys can tolerate me out there.
All right, well, thank you very much. Until we see you next week. 3 episodes next week. I'll be coming at you doing some OT. Can't wait. Enjoy the football. Until we see you next week, peace, progress, prosperity. We'll talk to you soon. And also, happy Labor Day weekend holiday.
Yeah, be
Have
safe.
a good time.
Have a good time.
All
Be
right.
safe. Go Hawks.
All right, go Hawks.